All right, hi. Today we're going to be talking about a skit by Dave Chappelle. It's from an HBO special, and they called it "Talking to the Cops." It's a short, maybe less than 5 minute skit. It was released in 2017. This is before the recent events of George Floyd. Rest in peace to him. But him dying has really shined a light on police brutality and the issues relating to the police. So I think this skit was definitely ahead of its time, as it resonates with the Black community still to this day, because America has a long history of police brutality in the Black community. So now many African Americans live in constant fear when they see police being pulled over, talking to them, and on the street, various situations. It's just never usually a good situation at hand. Uh, Dave Chappelle says this is something that all African Americans have to face, no matter your gender, your age, how rich you are, just color of your skin, and seeing the police just kind of strikes something in you that you really don't know what's coming next. Dave also states that he didn't even know this was an issue white people didn't face, and that causes a lot of laughter in the audience because white people kind of know. Some white people now may know about white privilege, but this skit kind of definitely highlights what white privilege is, and he shows that in a funny way. I think one of the first theories that really connect to this is the superiority theory of humor. And we see this pretty much how he separates the different interactions between white and black people. So pretty much the theory is saying that humor kind of comes from the feeling of superiority. So pretty much him stating that he didn't even know this was an issue that white people didn't face, it just kind of puts them already on a pedestal, saying there's a difference between us, there's a gap, and he pretty much explains the gap in this skit. So Dave Chappelle pretty much makes the audience buy into the fact that what they go through to ensure their safety is such a difference that white people would never have to go through. So one part of the skit, he says a white lady could get pulled over and they ask for an ID, while he gets pulled over, they're asking him to spread his cheeks and pretty much show his behind. And he's like, "Damn, form ID wouldn't be okay." And I think that was also a reference to saying that white people, or not white people, but just in general, police may feel that black people are always loud or angry or showing out, kind of showing their behind, if you ever heard that saying. So I think that was a good reference and a key part to this skit as well, leading on to what's coming forward. So when looking at some of the texts that we've read, there's one piece called Stand Up Comedy, Social Change, and American Culture by Judith Ross Lee. And he pretty much talks about the humor zone. So in this, the narrator is Dave Chappelle, and he focuses on pretty much highlighting the social norms that African Americans face, or the social norms African Americans do to ensure their safety. Um, when the police get behind him, he says he avoids eye contact, he avoids communication. He says he doesn't even like to speak to them. So that's something key to this as well, that people are finding it funny that he has to avoid the police. He has to do these things to show his safety, to ensure his safety, but it's a part of his daily life. And people think that's funny while it's an audience full of black and white people. This is where the relief theory comes in. In an audience that's full of many different races, he says things that may make people a little uncomfortable. And we see in relief theory, like sometimes humor comes from nerves and excessive energy. So I think this was a key theory as well, because him stating that him stating that white privilege is a thing without saying white privilege, he's pretty much calling out white people for having the benefit of a doubt, which may make them think about it, strike something in them that makes them realize, okay, maybe there is a difference between how I have to carry myself while in public. Another thing I'd like to say is, even though this isn't frontier humor, I think looking back at how humor was many years ago kind of shows that even though there's a difference in the era, but there's still the way humor is set up is very much the same. So in frontier humor, we see there's a narrator in the skit that explains various different situations. So in this skit, the situation that I think is very key to highlight is the skit where him and his friend are in New York, and they're smoking weed. Weed at the time in New York is illegal, very illegal. So the breaking the law by smoking, and they're in public. So they're in New York. They're in New York, and they're walking around. Him and his friend, I think his friend's name is Chip. They're walking around. They're lost, and he says he's not sure if they're lost because New York's like big or if it's just high. Either way it goes, it's just lost and high in New York. And I really wish I could add this. Really, I could wish I could add this clip in here, but don't really not do that. So I'm just gonna attach this to the bottom. But so for him and Dave, I mean Dave and his friend there, yeah, they lost in New York, and the friend's pretty much saying, "Oh shoot, it's the cops," and he says it in a tone. He says it in a tone that would seem like he's scared, he's nervous, he's like, "Oh shoot, Dave, it's the cops, right?" But in reality, he's not cops. He's kind of excited. He's like, "Oh, here's my safety. Here's my guidance. They're gonna be able to help us out." Dave's saying, "No, no, bro. Like, don't go over there. Don't talk to them. You're gonna get us like arrested. You're gonna get us in trouble." His friend doesn't care. He ignores him. He walks over to the cops. He even touches the cop. He shakes him. He's speaking to him. He lets him know, like, "Yeah, I'm lost." He even confesses, "I'm a little high," but nothing happens. The cop just tells him, kind of like, "Back up. You're on the street. You're not lost. You're right where you need to be." And I think that shows that the real difference between black and white people is the white privilege, that he's able to tell the cop he's high. He's able to touch him, and nothing happens to him. I think this is a term that's from frontier humor called naive humor. Naive humor, which pretty much is saying like that a character in the story tries to justify his or her actions based on their own ignorance. So we see that his friend Chip is ignorant to the fact that his white privilege is saving him, and yeah, his white privilege is saving him, and that's something that Dave Chappelle would never be able to do. Admit to the cops he's lost and high in New York. He needs help. He's instantly getting arrested. He's instantly going to face some type of repercussions for that. And I think that is something key to this skit that adds humor to it by highlighting real life events that he's not able to do, but his counterparts are able to do. Strike something in the audience. I say this skit, Talking to the Cops, is a socially conscious comedy because what Dave says in this skit, there's no lie. Everything may be exaggerated, maybe a little bit, not even that, because every situation with the police for African American can be different and maybe taken to the extreme. So I would say this scene is not really problematic. If someone feels that this scene is problematic, it's probably because they don't agree with the statement of like there's a thing as white privilege. I think Dave Chappelle does a good job of educating people on white privilege while making it funny and humorous, while not really offending any side, while he is making white people superior to blacks in the sense that of how they're able to have an encounter with the police. I feel no side would really be offended from this skit because it's like social norms that we know are kind of true. I'm looking at political humor and authority. It was an article we read a few weeks ago again. Um, I think something key that Dave does really well is being supportive. That's a factor that they stated in the article, pretty much saying like in humor, we may comedian may target a certain group or a certain institution. In this case, I think he's very supportive to the black community, showing the trouble, showing what they go through, and I think that adds to this as he's being supportive, as it's something relatable to black people, and it's something that white people or any race can understand. So he breaks it down very well while he's being the educator. I'm looking at undermining. I think Dave Chappelle. Some people may say Dave Chappelle's undermining black people by saying they have to do all this wild stuff just to ensure their safety. But I say no. If anything, he's undermining the police department in America, the judicial system in America, stating that they're allowing these officers that are supposed to be here to be a lifeline, a helping hand. These people are actually cancers to society. These people are actually racially profiling black people, making their lives much harder. We see that without even saying it, he never accuses I guess he does, but he never comes out and says anything about white privilege or police brutality or anything like that. But these are all things that can be inferred. These are all things that can be taught, as we know from our own experiences, from our own what we see in the news, that these are real life issues that people face, and he does it in a way that is not harmful, but very well able to understand how serious this is and do it in a funny way. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the presentation. If you guys have time, I think you guys should really watch the skit. It's not that long. I think you guys will enjoy it. Uh, my discussion question for you guys is: do you agree with what I said about frontier humor being a part of this skit, and like how humor, even from many years ago, we still see that factors from frontier humor make its way into our present day humor? And yeah, so just let me know what you think. If you agree or you disagree. Do you think this scene is problematic? Let me know about that. Uh, is there anything you think Dave could have did better, or did he go too far? Yeah, just let me know. Interested on what you guys think, and thanks for listening.